Hey, what's happening, CSTers? Welcome back to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Yes, we've been on a little bit of a break, but we are glad to be with you. I'm Nick Superling. FC Cincinnati falls in front of a packed TQL Stadium over the weekend 2-0 to the Colorado Rapids. We're going to discuss that match in great length tonight here on the show. Of course, we also want to discuss the fact that it was a packed house at TQL Stadium. So we're going to get the thoughts of a couple of guys who were there at the stadium over the weekend to get their experience, not just inside TQL Stadium, but outside as well. And then there was some news today from Major League Soccer announcing a new league for a new pathway forward for development in the United States soccer pyramid. So we're going to touch on that a little bit later on in the show. As I mentioned, we are glad to be back. It's been a few weeks. We needed to have our batteries recharged, and we are back and better than ever. So if you've got feedback on what's discussed tonight or just anything FC Cincinnati in general, get in touch with us. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. You can also hit us up as well on Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters for this week. We welcome back to the program. He doesn't do a whole lot of writing, folks, but when he does, he puts out what we call bangers. We welcome back to the show, Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle. Boston, welcome back to CST. How are you, sir?
Good. Where am I? I record on Tuesdays. I'm off a day, and where I'm from, I run things.
Well, we're glad to have you here tonight, co-host of March to Match Day, Boston. Welcome back, and looking forward to getting your thoughts on the weekend. Of course, you put out a great article as well today, and looking forward to getting deeper thoughts on that as well too.
No, I appreciate it. Today was an interesting day. You're right. I don't write often, and there's a reason for that. Because when I write, it's either way too depressing or things that no one wants to hear. So we will dive into one of those two situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a good article. Go read it over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Also, glad to have back on the show Jeff Tebbets. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Hold on, I'm finishing my alcohol here.
All righty.
Sort of breaking out early after this weekend, what was a 4 games sweep over in San Diego by the Reds, and FCC not putting up anything on the board. All you can do is just break out the expensive stuff early in the week,
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. There's also a gentleman on this show who's very well versed in the alcoholic beer side of things. We welcome back to the show, Coach Brad Goff. Coach, welcome back to CST.
I'm happy to be here. I do wish we could talk about a win, but I do think that there's some interesting tactical things that we can talk about. Unfortunately, most of them working against FC Cincinnati, but there's stuff there to break down, and that's what I like to do. So that's a plus anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to have you back on the show as well. As I mentioned, FC Cincinnati over the weekend falling, and I got to say, after watching the match and then reading Boston's article today, folks, I'm even cracking open a beer tonight. This doesn't happen very often. If you ask any of the CST cast members, they all think that I do not drink beer. Well, I have to. It's just I do. FC Cincinnati losing over the weekend 2-0 to the Colorado Rapids. Best and worst. I'll start with you, Boston. You got a best and worst?
When I first met you, I thought you were like on the I thought you went to AA meetings because you didn't drink at all.
Yeah.
So if you're losing a token tonight, I mean, put it down. Put it down.
No, I am not losing a token, but yeah, it's time.
Oh, best and worst. Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Best by far is Cincinnati fans have somehow made it 3 years of losing and have not given up on this club. I mean, props to the fans that were in attendance, prop to the sellout crowd. The Bailey, I sat there for the first time in the new stadium, and it was loud. It felt great to be there. So by far the best is, I mean, I go to Bengal games, I go to Reds games, and you're sitting in a pretty empty stadium. So by far the best is somehow this momentum we have carried forward. I know it's a new stadium, but still, it's cool to see fans. It's cool to see people excited, even if they have a pretty good idea what the result's going to be. Worst, I think, has to be that we have a decent team, and we still can't put together wins and goals.
All right. Jeff, how about you? Best and worst?
I'll start with my worst. Just to build on that thing, we played decent enough to, I think, do a 0-0 draw. We played well on the front foot. We played well we fired a lot at the goal, and Yarborough, the keeper for Colorado, played a really good game. He's got the experience to be a decent goaltender goalkeeper after Tim Howard's retirement. But our goalkeeper looked so much poorer in comparison. I mean, Vermeer, the two saves that he did early on, he got out late, but he still managed to make himself big, which is what you do as a goalkeeper. But I mean, the first one, the first goal he let in felt like he wasn't sure what to do. The second one, he should have stopped that tight angle. It just scratches my head why you don't go back to why you shouldn't have stayed with TD when he was the hot hand. And then the good, it's hard to find one here. So I'm just going to say the weather was nice. It didn't rain. I mean, they were saying it was going to thunderstorm the entire pre-game. And frankly, at the end of the entire thing, the sunset made the stadium look really nice. And unfortunately, that's the best thing about this is the experience.
That is sad.
It looked really good.
It didn't rain. Jeff Tippett.
It rained before the game and after the game, not during it.
All right, Coach, your best and worst.
All right. My best is one Alvaro Barreal. Not least of the reason why is because he's making me look good when I talks about him glowingly all off season. But he played another good match. He's probably FC Cincinnati's best player. He pulled off a Rabona that resulted in a half chance. He had a couple good shots from distance. I thought he had a good game overall. Really got up and down the field, hustled a lot, even put in a defensive shift. My worst is the fact that Yusub's called a shandy a beer, because we just can't have that, man.
First of all, are we going to get technical on me? Come on.
No. I'll forgive you because, inexperience. But if I'm being real, I think that my worst is FC Cincinnati goalkeeping. And it's not just the performance of Vermeer, because he has had some ups and downs. He's had some good saves. I think the second goal, certainly he should have done better, perhaps the first. But then you look at the fact that he's, the type of contract he's on, that FC Cincinnati's using international roster spots on goalkeeping. And you have guys like Yarborough across the pitch. And you have guys like Willis in Nashville, Matt Turner in New England, guys that were backups that came into a first team and have performed well. And there's the league is littered with capable backups that could be first team starters. And instead, FC Cincinnati is either plucking internationals off the trash heap or going and spending for Polish people because they have cool nicknames like the Eagle or something.
Hey, coach, take it down a level. This is a personal friend of Jaap Stam, who was the third string keeper at the LAFC. So trash heap, maybe like Mount Rumpke.
Yeah, it's a nice trash heap. I'm not trying to diss, Vermeer. Kenny. He switched his name to Kenny from Kenneth. Apparently, that's what the announcer has been announcing him as Kenny Vermeer. So I think he's trying to turn over a new leaf. And hey, supposedly his distribution's supposed to be better. So maybe that's something.
I mean, you take a look at, I think somebody brought this up on Extra Time today about how expansion teams picking up reserve goalies for their work. Matt Stuver's been one of the best goalies this season, and he was a backup when he was picked up. You look at Tyler Miller for LAFC when their first season, he was a backup. It sort of makes me wonder, why we couldn't have gone that same route, and why we've got two internationals in our goalkeeping system.
We joke and we kid, and the international spots being used year after year on goalkeepers is a little bit frustrating. But I mean, end of the day, this club has a lot of problems, and I just don't think goalkeeper is the main one.
It's just on the list, right?
It's on the list. I'll give you that.
Subs has got a lot of problems, but drinking a beer ain't one of them. It's a shandy.
Because I'm drinking a shandy tonight.
That's right.
It's not a hard seltzer. You're in a good category. Don't worry about it.
What is it? A Leinenkugel?
It's a Leinenkugel summer shandy.
All right.
This is what my wife refers to as a cheerleader beer.
It's mixed with beer.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
That's what I had at the match on Saturday. I approve.
See, there you go. I'm sorry, it's not a beer. I'm drinking a shandy, everybody. Sorry, Coach. I didn't get the technical term correct.
That is a good day drinking beer. If you gotta make it all day, that's what I start with.
Hey, it's a good podcasting beer so far. I'm feeling good. Other than the result, we've got some best and worst coming in to the chat. So if you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, make sure you chime in. Alex on YouTube says best was a full TQL. That place was bumping. Worst, watching players give up on play. Nothing was more frustrating than watching a player throw their hands up or turn their back to the ball. If I had to give a best and worst, my best was really, I hate that we have kind of put our hat on this, and we put our hat on this since day one, back when this club launched in 2016. But seeing a full packed house at TQL Stadium, like attendance like that, like, is that really still our thing? I mean, at some point we've got to get by that and become more about the soccer rather than the attendance. But that's really the only thing I can offer up. That was the best. Seeing a full packed house, considering where the city and state and country has been with COVID over the past year, great. I will take that 100%. Worst, probably the fact that, again, once FC Cincinnati went down a goal, you just kind of felt, I don't know. At no point did I feel like they were going to come back and win this match. And Coach, maybe I'm wrong in thinking that, but it didn't ever feel that way.
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong. I think that it's a common sentiment. I think that if you want to stretch and really search for positives, you can go back and watch the first 20 minutes of that second half, and really the first 10 minutes. FC Cincinnati was really good. They were like 73% possession. The first 10 minutes of the second half, they had something like 73% of possession. They had 4 shots to Colorado's 0 shots. And then through the first 20, up until basically Colorado scored their second, they were dominating possession over 60%. They limited Colorado to only 1 shot, and they had like 7, I think. But none of those shots were so quality that you felt like, oh, that should have been, or you never felt like one was coming. And I think that's what you're getting at, Subs. This team has let us down so many times. We just don't expect that those things are going to happen. Then when they do, the very rare occasion, we're surprised.
We talked about this before the show went live. Coach is an optimist. I'm an optimist. We have a lot of people on our staff that give the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again. And there have been many matches where we can see where we could have won. This is another one where we see where we could have hung in there. Coach just mentioned a bright spot where if one of those 4 goes in, and we saw Lacati had a decent shot, there's always chances. But I think at the end of the day, even for us optimists, we're getting to the point where we would be shocked if we walked away with one of these. I mean, it's just because one, whatever we're doing out there is just not adding up, and then 2, luck just never seems to fall our way. But you know, it's more than that. I hate to use the L word, but sometimes it's that way as well.
It's hard to be an optimist, I think, when you're looking at the past few games from FCC. You look at the games where they're decimated in really all the stats: the possession, shots on goal, shots in general. In the to start the season, they have not had good stats. The teams have sort of walked all over them. This was the first game that really offensively, they were dominant. They owned all those check marks. They owned all the shots on goal. And to have a 2-0 loss as a result, it's sort of really, I think, you lose confidence in numbers at all. Why are we following any of these numbers if it just means it's going to be a loss in the end?
What did the XG end up being? Does anybody know?
I thought it was something like 2 for us and maybe 0.8 for Colorado. It was their 2 shots. One was on net, but it was a follow-up, and the other was that tight angle, which meant 0 almost.
Okay. So they also won that too, even though that's I don't know.
It's made up. Sorry, Ken.
I mean, yeah. I'm almost at I'm at a loss for words on what more can we say here? Like, yeah, they dominated the statistical categories. They were dominant in the second half, but like in the end, ultimately, there's no result. Like they did not. And I found myself, to be fair, I was away out of town. I was in Nashville over the weekend. I watched the match from my hotel room. Probably should have gone out, but that's another story. Instead, I watched the match. I sat there thinking to myself, man, when was the last time FC Cincinnati played with a lead? And I could not, for the life of me, I could not even think when was. And then I was like, have they won a match this year? And then like I had to like go like on our website and like look up our match recaps. Like, oh, that's right, they did get a result against Montreal. Like I've completely forgotten about that match. I don't know. I at this point, I just I'm at a loss for what now? Like what has to happen? I don't know, Coach. Talk me off the ledge here. Like, am I crazy for? I don't know. I don't know. I'm at a total loss here on how are FC Cincinnati fans supposed to feel?
Yeah, when I really try to look to talk somebody off the ledge or talk myself off the ledge, I think what you have to do is you have to break this season down and you have to look at it for what it is, and you have to break it into sections. So this is what I've been saying. You can't think of this season as a whole. You can't think of this MLS time as these 3 years. You have to break it down. It's just too depressing knowing where we've come from and all of the losses. If you just look at this season, it has not been good, but it has not been as catastrophically bad as either of the past 2 seasons were. If you remember, at this point last season, FC Cincinnati was bunkering with 10 players behind the ball constantly and going through matches where they didn't have a shot or not, and definitely not a shot on goal. There were several matches where FC Cincinnati didn't have a shot. And that is like the worst soccer to watch. It hurts because you're losing anyway. Maybe you eke out a 0-0 draw or something. But if you look at this season and you see the progression, you see that they're getting better in certain areas. They did a much better job creating opportunities this match. Now, certainly, you can say that all the time. Like, well, it's a process that you have to do something that rhymes with must, but eventually it rings hollow. I don't want to say it, Subs. I know that that's like Cincinnati soccer talk lore. It's like saying Voldemort, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that I'm trying to get at is that with this team, if you really just look for improvements, you can make yourself a little bit happy. You can see that that's happening. If you look at it as a whole, it's miserable. It is so depressing. It's so hard. And everybody knows that. The front office staff knows it. So I think that you have to choose to not paint a picture through rose-colored glasses. I'm mixing metaphors now, but you have to be able to take the positives where you can get it and recognize the improvement, but also don't talk yourself into letting the front office off the hook and saying, this team's getting better, it'll be okay, because it's not okay.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think maybe we can use something that rhymes with must. And instead of calling, say, trust in the process, this is a rusted process. This is a process that's been stuck for a long time. The gears haven't moved well, and unfortunately we just don't have anything that can oil it well. I look at the game that we played and I see one big missing piece, and that was we didn't have Ronald Monterita out there. I really think having him out there would have pushed things a little bit forward. He might have given you better crosses from the left, and maybe something deflects off of somebody, goes in and turns this game around. I said at the beginning of the season, I really think Monterita could be our MVP. And I also said, the games that he's missing, you're going to notice that he's missing. And I think that's one of the big things from this past weekend.
I think if we're talking off the ledge, then I remember at one point last year, we said, please just stop embarrassing us. Like that would be a good first step. And I think we have taken that first step in that we are no longer losing 7-1 or 5-0. We're not dropping massive amounts of goals, like you guys said. We're no longer bunkering the entire team. We have some kind of an attack. The counter is probably our most dangerous thing, but the pieces are not there yet. But we do play a complete game now. It is not a total embarrassment, which is a really good thing coming into a new season and a new stadium where there are likely new fans that bought tickets because of that stadium. So now I guess your next step is actually stringing together some wins and building on that and trying to make that next step forward 2 years too late.
We have been getting a few quotes or comments in the chat room here tonight, particularly regarding Isaac Atanga. Coach, I'm sure you've watched this match. You've got your tactical analysis on. You've got your tactical glasses on. What did he offer for the Orange and Blue Saturday compared to where he has been his last couple of appearances? Was it better?
It was better. He was anonymous the past couple of appearances. This match, he made a few things happen. There was a moment in the first half when he picked the ball up. It was a long pass from Acosta, actually. It played him kind of through on the FC Cincinnati left-hand side. And he needed to make up 2 yards of space on the center back and get on the ball. And he did that and then made up another yard to be able to get inside that center back. That's the one where then he shot straight at the goalkeeper's chest. Yeah. And so those are the types of things that you see. If he can put that finish together, that is going to be a really useful tool. But we've had guys like that. We've had Kikuta Mane was that kind of player, right? You'd show all this speed and then he dribbled off his shin right to the goalkeeper or sky a shot or something. So the problem with this is it's such a mismatch of tools that we have. Atanga is one of those guys that you need to be able to play 10 minutes at the end of a match just to see if he can give you something to work his way into MLS and improve at the things he needs to improve on. If you're relying on a guy like that, then you've misplaced your assets. You don't have the starters that are those solid players that are going to put in a great performance day after day, which is what you need to win in MLS.
All right. I've got an update. Not that everybody's concerned, but I've already finished my summer shandy, so I've already texted my son to bring me another one. It's going to be that kind of night. So if you're watching us, get in touch with us on Facebook.
That's what kids are for.
I'm screwed then.
We've got some comments here in the chat room. Josh Godby on YouTube says Tonga staying wide was very effective, but the second he cut inside, he seemed to lose that. Then Alex follows up on YouTube as well. Tonga looked so bright, but only when he was on the outside and had a defender on his shoulder. But he kept swapping positions with Brenner, and from there it felt like he couldn't time his runs. Any thoughts on that, Coach?
I think it was less about timing. I think that the idea of playing him through the middle was probably Stom wanted him to make a few curling runs and try to get in behind the defense. And I think that Colorado didn't give FC Cincinnati midfielders time on the ball to hit those passes. You saw often Lucho Acosta dropping into like an outside back position. And the idea was for him to be able to pick up the ball with the space to look up and hit Atanga, making that curling run, which he did that one time in the first half. And then Colorado saw it and adjusted. So we're not going to give him time to look up and hit that long ball. To make a long pass, you need time and space. And if you take away either of those things, you just can't do it. And that's the kind of thing that effective teams do. Even if you're not spectacular, you notice the little things. Oh, you can't give that guy time and space. And you make sure you take that away.
Steven on Twitter says Colorado was at least scared of Atanga. And then, yeah, you're right. I mean, there were some times where he looked dangerous going 1v1. You would have liked to have seen him place that shot a little bit better, but he did offer at least something different. So there's that. Was there anybody else watching this match? We've had a couple folks say, Brian on YouTube says, Castillo did make me feel good about backup outside back. Jeff, Boston, any thoughts on Edgar Castillo filling in for Mazzarita on how he played?
Personally, I look at it and I think Colorado was not afraid of him. He had a lot of space out on the left, and I think at times that allowed him to dance up a little bit, but then it also opened up so much space behind him. It was good to see him active out there. It was good to see that, it wasn't a total loss. If you had a younger person out there with less experience, maybe it would have been worse than 2-0. But at the same time, I'd have to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he played okay. Cincinnati has, I think all of us know that we are a team that's not super deep. I think at this point, FC Cincinnati has a decent starting 11 that should be able to theoretically compete in Major League Soccer and win at a acceptable rate. There's more depth in the attack than the defense by far. Any extra playing time back there, I'm fine with. I realize we're not perfect. Obviously, Matarrita's who you want, but it's not going to be an option. You're not always going to have all your guys healthy, and so I thought he performed as well as I would expect him to.
Considering FC Cincinnati came into the year virtually on the doorstep of the season starting, we were all panicked about left back, thinking Matarrita is going to miss time bare minimum for international duty, but he hasn't had a healthy season in a long time either. So we had no idea who the left back was. If you remember, we tried Zico Bailey there in preseason. So considering that, I mean, Castillo absolutely settled that. I mean, he played well in terms of being a backup. He is not a guy that you want to rely on to make 15 or 20 starts this season, but he was solid, didn't make many mistakes, didn't have any like really bad fouls, anything like that. Didn't offer a lot going forward either. But that's, in MLS to have a veteran left back who can come in that situation and be serviceable, that for most teams is okay. The reason why we're all like, well, he wasn't scary and they didn't have to account for him is because FC Cincinnati doesn't have those players on the pitch elsewhere. So if he's not doing that, we're like, well, he didn't do anything for us. So, but for what it is, a backup left back, I mean, he is a super solid option. I was happy with him. And I was also happy with Haglund having to come in the second half. I mean, considering the up and down season he's had, he played really well. He brought the energy. He won every 50-50 ball. It seemed like winning the ball out of the air. And Colorado plays the ball long a lot. So that was really useful. I thought he acquitted himself really well.
We got news last week that Calvin Harris had surgery on a torn meniscus. He's going to be out for some time. It also meant that Franco Kovacevic came back, and we saw him as well. Didn't really make much of an impact, but he did play. What the biggest thing to me when I watch Kovacevic play, and Coach, you can chime in on this, is his size looks different than anybody else on that pitch. He's a big man, but what should FC Cincinnati fans expect from Franco Kovacevic at this point?
Yeah, it's a good question because we don't really know. We just haven't seen him play a lot. What we have seen, like, he's pretty smooth on the ball. He's a pretty good 1v1 player. And he's one of those players that we've seen be pretty good at a lot of things. We haven't seen him do anything excellently. What I will say is, with news also coming out that FC Cincinnati is not going to be picking up the purchase option on Locadia. Now, we know that doesn't mean he's going back for sure because they could extend his loan or something. But with that news, Kovacevic is a guy who can play through the middle in a pinch, can play wing. He basically is, he plays that same style as Locadia. He's a bigger body to hold the ball up or to be a target. So I think he can be really useful if they keep him around, if Locadia does indeed have to go back across the ocean.
Yeah, and Drew on YouTube brings up another good point too. This was a move that FC Cincinnati made in the offseason. Where's Ben Mines? What does a kid like Ben Mines got to do to see the field for FCC at this point? I mean, at this point, if you're Jaap Stam, like, what do you have to lose at this point? Just do you got to make a change for the sake of something, right? I mean, I don't know. Again,
I don't know. You're assuming we have a personnel problem, and I'm just not sold. That's the problem. I think we do have a team that's still working on the chemistry portion. I mean, look at Colorado. You're playing against a team that 0 DPs on the field. They only have one. And he wasn't in the match. He wasn't even eligible to play. So there's no money out there on the field for Colorado outside of what MLS gives them every single year. And so why are they that much better than FC Cincinnati? Well, chemistry, coaching. It's not money, so it comes down to one of these other factors. And I honestly, I will give a mark against chemistry. FC Cincinnati has not figured it out together on the pitch. Coaching, Some people might disagree with me, but I think that's his problem as well. So I just have a hard time saying it's players. I mean, we've been saying players are the problem for 3 years. At some point, players aren't the problem, and you have to just live with what you have.
I think one of the things that Colorado has, you can sort of say that, yeah, they don't have money, they don't have DP, but they've had very little turnover. They're a team that's been cohesive because this team performed really well last year, better than expected, and they barely lost anybody in the offseason. And so therefore they're able to stay united. They're able to get familiar with each other. And they just have good pieces in the right spots. Kellen Acosta is a really good midfielder. Yarborough, I feel, has been one of the steals in terms of getting him back into the MLS system. They're just a very tight unit, and they haven't had any reason to lose cohesiveness.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Boston on the individual player standpoint, but what you just said there, the right pieces in the right spots, that's key, because it's not just right spots, but it's defined roles, right? Rosenberry and Vines have been stalwarts on their flanks as outside backs or wing backs whenever they need. Jack Price has been an unbelievable midfielder for them, playing game in, game out, knows his role and does it super well, almost perfectly, and then they have a lot of their young players are players coming through their academy and things like that. So they're already in the Colorado system, right? It's not an Alvaro Barreal coming from Argentina and trying to settle in, or an Isaac Katanga who's been playing in Norway or someplace in Scandinavia or something. So they have guys whose roles have been defined for years in this team and what they're supposed to do. They have that understanding. And as much as I hate leaning on the chemistry argument, because it seems so trite to just always say, well, the team doesn't have chemistry. I am with somebody in the chat said that you see so many times with missed passes or passes just behind a player, or a guy slots a ball through and the other player's not making the run. And though that is chemistry, that is playing together. And it happens so frequently with FC Cincinnati. Now, is that a coaching issue? Is that a training issue? I don't know. I don't know why they can't figure it out sooner, but it absolutely is a chemistry issue.
All right. Man, I feel like we can continue to go on and on and on about this particular match. I do want to talk about this because, again, a lot was made in the offseason about the price tag. But FC Cincinnati spent $13 million on Brenner. And the return on investment here, they are not getting anywhere close to what a $13 million player in Major League Soccer should be doing, right? And maybe that's unfair. Again, he's still a young player in a new country with a lot going on with the pandemic, everything. I get that. But at some point, the excuses have to go, and there needs to be results and production. And what is happening with Brenner that is causing maybe the alarm bells to go off for either of you three, if you have an opinion on this? I'm sure Coach does as well. I'm trying not to have Coach use up all his great material for talking tactics this week, but at some point we've got to just have this discussion, like, what is happening with Brenner? $13 million for a guy with one goal on a penalty kick.
We're not playing this game, honestly.
Is it just service?
I think that's a big part of it, but no, we're not. You sign a $13 million player, you do exactly what that $13 million player needs to succeed, what he did in Brazil to succeed. You match that system. You build that system around him. You don't play whatever you were going to play. I mean, that's my personal take on it. We can't keep doing this every year, guys, like this. Our DP Audi doesn't score. How do we get Audi to score? Our DP Lacadia doesn't score. How do we get our DP? Now, our DP Brenner doesn't. We literally have this conversation every single year. Maybe we don't just have are we literally picking the worst DPs in history, or are we not building a system around them?
Well, I want to jump in here because I want to say two things. Number one, the idea of building a system around a DP player who costs $13 million is spot on. Brenner, Locadia, Adi, they all have something in common. They are players who, when you go back and look at their highlight reels of goals, they score off of 1 and 2 touches. Their cutbacks from the byline, their services into the box where they can use their acceleration and get on the end, and they're mostly flicks and tap in goals. Something that you see like Chicharito do a ton. Really good at finding that little half yard of space and that acceleration to get to that cross, those low crosses. Brenner scored most of his goals in transition at the back post, so like an early cross curling in behind the back line that he just was able to accelerate and get to, even though none of the defenders could touch it. Yet we are playing on a team that, with inverted wingers, that all they want to do is come inside. Against Colorado was playing a back 5. They would have 5 guys across the top of the 18, and FC Cincinnati would move into that and try to combine and find the tiny space in between those players to try to release somebody into the box. You need to get that ball wide occasionally, and I'm not talking about just getting it wide and hitting crosses. I'm talking about getting in behind the defense and driving low passes in through the box, right? Now, about Brenner and where he really differs from Locadia and Adi is, number one, Brenner is not missing chances. And as disheartening as that is, that he's not getting chances, it is good that, Locadia missed so many sitters. It became like, man, even when we create for him, he can't score. And Brenner is not doing that. Also, Brenner, when he is on the ball, he looks really good. His ability to retain possession and control the ball, when he had to step in and played the 10 when Lucho Acosta was out, he can do those things. He has shown that he's a really quality player. So I think that's the one difference. Adi, you can count the number of really good moments he had at FC Cincinnati on less than one hand, a hand that's been through, a couple of accidents and maybe missing some fingers. Locadia missed so many chances, even when he had good moments, it balanced out. Brenner has had really nothing but positive moments. Now, not as many or as positive as we want them to be, but he is a quality player, and you can see that. So I'm still hopeful that FC Cincinnati can get him going if they start to do better creating from wide. A guy like Isaac Atanga can help that. We've seen Barrial try to hang out wide a little bit more often.
But Atanga, like we watched over the weekend, kept going inside. That's not going to help Brenner. So is that a Stom thing? Like what? Where's the disconnect?
Yeah, we don't know because we're not on the training ground to see what Stom is instructing his players, but certainly playing inverted wingers, a right footer on the left and a left footer on the right doesn't help that because it encourages them to come inside. But I think part of the idea there is that if that winger comes inside, those outside backs can overlap. And we've seen Zhao be so inept at serving the ball in from the right. Teams don't even bother worrying about if he gets out there. They just run towards him and he smacks it off them and it goes out of bounds. And on the left, Castillo just really struggled to get forward. I don't know if it was age or instruction, but he didn't provide any width until the second half. You could tell there was a concerted effort to get him forward more often, but still he wasn't able to get on the overlap and serve balls in. So is it because the outside backs aren't good enough? Because even when Matarrita is out there, he's the only one who can do it, so teams key on him? Or is Stom telling people to come inside and try to combine? It reminds me of like old school Arsenal when you hear that they tried to walk the ball into the goal, right? They're coming central and trying to do these cute little flicks and tricks and combination plays to get the ball in right on the goal line and tap it in, instead of sometimes you just need to get the ball wide and whip one across, man.
It seems to me that a lot of the times they depend on Acosta to sort of whittle his way inside, and then they try to do these small little triangles to get it to Brenner. It feels like missing that link on the outsides and not having a dependable cross going to the middle. That's where, Brenner is unfortunately invisible. He's not on the receiving end of those passes. But I will say, I'm not willing to define this team in terms of the DPs. Hell, we've seen that Miami had 5 on the pitch at one time, and they still didn't do too well in the end. So I'm not going to say a team is defined by their DPs. It's defined by the rest of the team.
That's fair. That's fair. From a team that beat us with no DPs. It's clear you need all 11. I think that's the frustrating part about FC Cincinnati. You see,
well, not just that, Boston. Even if the fact that so we've got more DPs than they do. I think I saw the FC Cincinnati salary is the 5th highest in Major League Soccer.
Yeah,
fifth, and this is what we got.
Not even the 5th anymore. There's a lot of talk that we're 4th now.
Because of Miami.
But you brought in help. I think all of us thought this. Okay, we got Brenner attacking. We've got Acosta's going to be giving him the balls. We're going to have wingers kicking balls in, and the team theoretically, we know what they should be doing. We know how it should be going down in our heads. It's just not. It's not happening. It's frustrating. I think the fans see it. We see it. And we could talk ourselves to a blue in the face, but we have 3 DPs and it's just not adding up.
The summer shandy is going to get me in trouble tonight. I can already feel it. All right. We'd love to hear your thoughts, FCC fans. Get in touch with us. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let us know your thoughts on Brenner, Stom, Nykamp. I mean, you name it. Let us know. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. It's this time of the show where we give a big shout out. Thanks to our tremendous supporters. So let's give it up to Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Ryan Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Collings, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and Melissa Bingle. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. So, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Boston doesn't write a lot of articles. Like, I couldn't tell you the last article Boston wrote.
I couldn't.
It was probably an April Fool's article regarding, I think, University of Cincinnati selling Nippert Stadium at one point.
I thought it was us getting Louisville as our USL affiliate.
That was another one a few years ago. But Boston, you put out a banger today. First of all, what got into you? B, really well done. Again, if you haven't read it, I recommend you going over to our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com, and give it a read. What provoked this thought? This thoughtful piece that you put together, Boston?
Well, I think part of it is I've been a big proponent of giving Stom a chance, and I've been the one arguing on Reddit or Discord or wherever FC Cincinnati fans are at, and just saying, like, we need to give this guy a chance. He didn't have his full year, and I honestly felt, and I still do believe, that FC Cincinnati was going through coaches too fast, and we talked earlier in the show about chemistry. We weren't giving teams enough chemistry. We weren't getting staff enough chemistry in order to really group. We were changing pieces so fast, changing our DPs and strikers, and everybody was just moving in and out. And I really just felt like we never got a team that gelled. And so when we started the season, I said, Jaap Stam should play this entire year. He should get that shot. And I'm still torn, honestly, a little bit, because part of me still wants to just say, maybe, just maybe we get things figured out. There is a theory out there that the Dutch system takes a long time to develop. It takes years and years. It's not a quick fix. And so if you subscribe to that, you want to give Jaap Stam more time. If you think Gerard's brought in all the pieces, then you want to wait. I get that. I 100% get it. But I think Colorado just kind of snapped me. I sat in the stands, sat in the Bailey for the first time, and I just felt no hope. I walked into the stadium knowing we were going to lose. And at no point during the game did I think that was not going to happen. And I walked out of the stadium knowing what I knew when I walked in. And I said, how many times can I do this to where we have a fall off? We've built this really cool thing in Cincinnati. The fans have a really cool vibe and atmosphere, and we crowd these bars on game days, and I love seeing each and every one of you. But it's all going to fall apart if we just lose. It's statistically not even probable that we stay in last place every single year, but somehow we're doing it, and we are literally in last place again. And when I saw that, that's kind of what provoked me. How in the world can we be in last place 3 years in a row? It's never been done, Subes. It doesn't even mathematically make sense that you can be this bad this long. You will eventually accidentally win.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I struggle with this. Again, have we been spoiled? Like, were we spoiled the first 3 years in USL? Like, we're FC Cincinnati fans. Like, did we have it easy? Like, I guess I look back and I look at other teams in Major League Soccer who are successful now that weren't, right? Toronto, it took them a while to get going. I look at Philly. It took them a long time to get going, right? When they joined Major League Soccer, and now look where they're at. But then I look at LAFC. I look at Atlanta. And I even look at Austin right now, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if FC Cincinnati could beat Austin at this point. So again, I struggle with this. I really do. And I know, Coach, you're Mr. Positive here, but like I think sometimes you probably feel this way a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% feel this way a lot bit. I just usually am able to talk myself into some belief when I analyze matches and I really get into the nitty gritty of watching spacing and formation and numerical advantages. I see moments in the match where FC Cincinnati is one step away from doing exactly the thing to break the opponent down. And it's a step that is not like a player needs to, beat a man 1v1 or anything that's difficult. It's just making the right pass, making the right decision. There was a moment where Barreal cut in from the left and tried to hit a shot. It deflected and came back to him. And then he tried to hit another shot. And the defender got a block on it and went over the goal for a corner kick. And if you watch that play, if he literally just pokes the ball square, Brenner is standing wide open. And you watch for like a good 8 seconds after Barreal hits the shot and it goes out, Brenner is standing there pointing to his feet like, come on, man, I was right here. And it was such a good move, such a good play. And as FC Cincinnati fans, we want to see how disastrous it was. But as a coach, I see, we're close. So that's the positive part. Now, we can only say, we're close so many times before it's just defeatist and we start to break. And I think that's where we all are. But there are so many moments in this Colorado match that FC Cincinnati was close to doing really good things. So I just want to believe that this team can put a few things together, change a few things, make some better decisions. Don't press so hard because they're afraid to lose, and maybe start to achieve positive results. And I truly believe with the talent, with the adjustments that Stom's making at halftime, which by and large have been successful, I truly believe if this team can ever actually get on a little bit of a run, that then it's going to be a boulder tumbling down the hill and they're just going to get better because the team needs belief and culture more than anything right now. Boston said it. They have the players. I'm saying that the coach is fine. I don't think he's an excellent coach, but he's making adjustments that are leading to positive play. So I think if the team gets a little bit of belief, that is the missing piece. That is the piece that will help them go on. And so I guess I'm just trying to will it into existence on my end.
So what Coach Jeff is saying is that FC Cincinnati needs a little Ted Lasso in their life.
At some point, MLS experience becomes MLS experience because you sat there so long. And so I almost argue that Coach's argument is that Stom could literally fall into this by staying put long enough, and I think that is true to an extent. In my article, and I would be interested in hearing your guys' opinion on this. In my article, I mentioned the Bruce Arena factor or the Caleb Porter factor, and how you take teams that already exist, you obviously go through an off-season window, and Columbus added Subs, you pointed this out, Columbus added a Zelarayan, obviously massive impact, right?
Well, no, I meant their GM as well. They got that's, I don't know how you say his last name, but he came from Toronto. But yeah, I mean, that was also a big move as well.
Yeah, you add Zelarayan. New England gets Bruce Arena. And I talked on March to Match Day with a New England fan, and he said that Bruce Arena came.
No, Jeff was on your show.
No, not Jeff.
Oh, okay.
A more qualified person. But he said Bruce Arena came in, and after the following season, admitted he was fully intending to clean house with players when he got there. And then he sees what he has and goes, no, like I can work with most of this. And he turns New England into a team that very easily handled FC Cincinnati and has handled most teams this year. And they're sitting in first place. So theoretically, if we got a Caleb Porter, a Bruce Arena, can you put this team on the pitch faster than waiting on a Jaap Stam to figure it out?
I think one of the common denominators there is I think Columbus's GM is roundly regarded as one of the best in the league. Bruce Arena, when he came in as the coach, also took on the GM role. Those are two guys who came in and built the team that they wanted. I don't rate Caleb Porter super highly as a coach. I think he's a good coach. I just don't think he's unbelievable. And I think, Columbus has the same team they had last year, arguably a lot better. And the results have been worse. And I think that's the Porter effect. I think their better team is the GM. Is that Bezbachenko?
Yes.
In Columbus? Yeah. So that's the factor. And I don't know that Gerard Nijkamp is the complete wrong answer. Maybe it's a mixture of he and Stam. But when I look at guys and I like having to play out of position, when I look at Makocho coming in and just absolutely being, I don't know if he's cooked. He did not play well. He hasn't done anything. Now we don't know. Is Gerard Nijkamp talking to Jaap Stam and Stam saying, yes, I want Kamahela Makocho. I played against him in the championship and I want him. Or is it like, hey, I need a defensive midfielder, and Gerard Nijkamp brings him Makocho and he's like, okay, I'll try to work with this. I don't know where that is. But the number of players that FC Cincinnati have brought in that have not been able to perform, or that have been brought in that can't play the style that Stam wants, leads me to believe that there's a disconnect there, and it's the GM's problem more than the coach's problem. Of course, I'm a coach, so I never want to blame the coach.
Sure. Was Makocho in the 18 over the weekend?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something.
I mean,
Go ahead, chime in, Jeff. I know you've been waiting patiently.
I know. Sorry, I was recovering from the flesh wound that I got from Boston there. I mean, looking at this game, the flashback that I got was exactly that, a flashback. I felt that I remembered this game happening before. Deja vu all over again. I believe there were games that we had Louisville come in 2018. They put it to us early. They shot us in the foot. They were up 1-0, and then we spent the rest of the game just trying to drill it without a plan at the net. Nothing went in because there was no plan. And that's what I'm seeing right now. It feels like there was this one miniseries that was like a Stephen King novel before called Golden Years, I think, about 30 years ago, where this one guy in Explosion started aging in reverse. That's what I'm feeling right now. I feel we're aging in reverse here. We're at 2018 levels. And if we're not careful, we're going to be back, we're going to be too far back to really make a difference. That being said, I know there's a Weigel in Vegas this week, right? I'm going to take that mentality. I'm going all in. I'm pushing all my chips into it. We're playing Chicago. We're playing Toronto. Both of these teams are at our level. If you look at a points per game thing, they're below our level. If we can put positive numbers together and take a win or two against these two teams, even though they're on the road, we are no longer in last place. We have somebody below us, and we can build on that. I'm putting that in. We've won on the road this year. We can do it again.
Wow.
Are these must wins, Chicago and Toronto? If you're looking at Jaap Stam's job,
for my liver's sake, it is all in. It's a must win.
Wow, already. I don't know if it's a must win. I mean, it's a must win in a sense that, my goodness, it's getting harder and harder to talk about the losses. Not just on our show, but March to Match Day and
I think the real problem is if these are not must wins, if you give points to Chicago and points to Toronto, there is now no buffer between last place and second to last place. You are dead last.
I just looked at the clock. Holy crap. It's 9:55.
That's what happens when you drink
Wow.
shandies. Time goes by pretty quickly.
Yeah, I did go through two of these pretty quickly. Somebody in the chat, I can't
That's
remember
almost
who it was.
one real beer.
Well played. Well played. I look, I hate beating that dead horse. It's getting harder and harder to do every week, but let us know how you feel. Is this a must-win match for FC Cincinnati this week against Chicago? Hit us up, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com.
It's Wednesday against Chicago, midweek game.
Yeah, so that should be interesting. Boston, are you doing a March to Match Day for Chicago? I'm guessing not for Chicago.
No, I wish we could. I'm thinking about just solo recording a 5-minute rant, but that's about it.
Or just have them go read your article.
I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
All righty. Let's get to the news from today, right? Major League Soccer announcing a new league in a very vague press release with not a lot of details, other than they're creating a new league for the pathway for younger players to a more professional. I don't even know where it was very vague, and we don't know if this is the U23 league, the reserve league. Like there wasn't a whole lot of information in here.
It was an announcement of an announcement.
Right. So what do you make of this news, gents? What does this mean for FC Cincinnati?
It means we're going to get barraged with a bunch of jokes about, can FC Cincinnati just drop down into the MLS next league and maybe be halfway decent? We could probably finish mid-table there. Other than that, what I think it means is until FC Cincinnati can get an academy up and running, it can give you a place to get guys.
Well, they have an academy up and running, but I know what you mean.
An academy up and running that is going to be producing first team talent. It gives you a place to take these young academy kids that are coming through. It gives you a place to take guys that remember Ortiz. Is it Ortiz?
Ray
Yeah,
Ortiz.
Ray Ortiz. Yeah, a guy that we were all really excited about, but there just wasn't room for him on this roster. Gives you a space for guys like that, draft picks like Calvin Harris, even maybe a young player who's coming over, probably not a Brenner because of his price tag, but maybe an Alvaro Barreal gets stuck there for the end of last year instead of trying to get first team minutes, and bring those guys through playing competitive matches in America and getting settled in, as opposed to trying to loan people out to USL or trying to find spots for them, or in the case of a guy like Ortiz, having to just cut him and say, good luck to you. So I think that's in the near term what it means for FC Cincinnati.
Plays for the Chattanooga Red Wolves, FYI, if you want to check up on him.
What league is that?
That's USL 1. It's not
No
even
kidding.
championship.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think he would. Yeah, it makes sense he didn't get a championship gig. No one's really seen him play too much. He played
Doesn't
a little
Chattanooga
bit in
have
Charlotte.
two teams, Boston?
Yeah, they do. They have
Oh, yeah. That
NISA
NISA.
one, and then they have the I don't know what league the main one is in now.
No.
I think there's a team from NISA, Chattanooga FC.
Yeah. Chattanooga FC is the big one. That's the one everybody knows. And then the Red Wolves showed up, and then there was some kind of war.
So what does this mean for USL?
Personally, I see it as being a little counterproductive for USL. I think just for the reason that sometimes they needed, these teams need a recharge of talent. People get injured, people come and go, they underperform. And so they need these loans to sort of bring talent in. Frankie Amaya had a few stints in the USL as a loanee. And frankly, if those USL teams don't get that charge of talent, they have to depend on the people they brought in. And I don't know if the crowds are going to start realizing they're seeing the same thing over and over again. There's no opportunity to get better. I wonder how many of these teams, like a Fresno, like a Rochester, like a Harrisburg, are going to go underneath because they just can't draw in the talent, not necessarily the eyes, but the talent that could play at a higher level and give them hope in the future.
Man, I had too many summer shandies because apparently the Rochester Rhinos are back. having a Jamie Vardy party. That was some interesting news in our little hiatus. I look at a guy like Ben Lunt, who currently back on loan in USL. This is probably a league that would be beneficial for him. But yeah, I mean, at some point, I just don't know how this benefit. I see why Major League Soccer is doing it, but I don't know how it helps the pyramid as a whole. Because I know the USL, they've done some good things. I mean, I without the USL, FCC would not be where they're at today. So I don't know. That's when I saw that news, it was quite interesting.
I think there's always been a disconnect between USL and USL truthers and MLS, in that USL was never a feeder for MLS other than the MLS2 squads, which USL roundly hated having around. And having that and not making that a seamless transition, really, I think USL made their own bed, because teams in MLS need a system like Major League Baseball has, where when they have a young kid or when they have a goalkeeper who underperformed in preseason, they can send them down for a few matches and then pull them back up. And USL has made that difficult, understandably, because the leagues don't work together. So no team wants to take a guy on loan for 4 or 5 matches. That disrupts their roster. With this MLS Next, you're going to be able to see a guy who is injured and needs to get 40 minutes of game time to start to build up match fitness, go and play one match in that MLS Next league, similar to a guy making a rehab start at a AAA squad in baseball. And that's really useful. And I think if USL early on would have seen themselves as second to Major League Soccer and like, hey, what can we do to ride your coattails and how can we help this? I think that USL would be what MLS Next is going to be. So I think, the truthers and the people who fought so hard for USL to be its own thing, I think kind of made their own bed, and it's destroying itself now.
There was a small piece in that released today, Boston, about markets that are not Major League Soccer markets could also be involved. So maybe you weren't so far off with Louisville a few years ago in your April Fool's article.
I don't think Louisville will be joining, but I do think there will be a few markets that jump ship from USL 1 or USL Championship, depending on how MLS Next does. I think that's fair. There might be teams that think that's a good avenue for them, and it might be. I honestly, I hate to say this, but I don't have a ton of hope for MLS Next. Just like I used to be so high on USL, especially when we were in there. The talent that I thought USL was overlooked. You saw a Mark Anthony Kaye hop up and do really well his first year with LAFC. And I said, okay, MLS teams are missing out on a lot of good talent down here. And then you have an FCC take the best, one of the best teams that USL had to offer to MLS and just get smacked to the point that they shedded some players, and then the next year they tried it again with fewer USL players until you finally cut Jimmy McLaughlin in your last one, and that experiment's over. And if that's the best the USL has to offer, it's just not there. The level's not there yet. I think you do get a Mark Anthony Kaye every now and then, but now LAFC fans don't even want him in LA anymore. So you'll get a star every now and then. You'll get a star that will come through USL. I think MLS Next will have the same thing. I'm not pegging all my hopes on it. I hope the day comes MLS is a league that can just pull from American sources and bring up players, but I just haven't seen the results, and I think it's still more years out than we care to admit.
Yeah.
I just see this new thing as being MLS wanting to sort of keep more players in their system, and as much as you say independent, I don't think this means like a Louisville will jump in and try to join it. I think you're going to see independent in the sense of Rio Grande Valley, or a Tacoma, or a teams that are affiliated with MLS squads but are not located.
Las Vegas. They're affiliated with the LAFC now, so
that's true. Maybe something like that could happen, where they were an independent team, but they had to latch their ships onto an MLS squad to become part of this new group.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago the Pittsburgh Riverhounds were affiliated with the Crew. So We'll see. I don't know.
Still hate the Riverhounds.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with this new news. We don't know a whole lot. What we do know is that there's going to be another league, and as more details come out, we'll be sure to cover it over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. It's that time of the show where we normally read our reviews, but we haven't gotten any new ones. So make sure you hit us up over on Apple Podcasts, not just here. You want to leave a rating and review for March to Match Day, you can leave it there as well. And Talking Tactics with Coach Goff, who's going to have a very special guest with him this week. Coach, fill us in.
Not a guest, Subs. That's the best part. Justin Hoyt, one of my all-time favorite FC Cincinnati players, historically, just because he was the kind of player that was so solid. He never was spectacular, but he was so solid. He's going to be joining me as a co-host for Talking Tactics to add that, that professional players experience. What's going through the minds of the players on the pitch? What is the coach saying in the locker room? That sort of thing, as well as he's been working on his analysis and getting his coaching badges and things like that. So I expect him to bring the heat and analysis as well. So me and Justin Hoyt are going to be breaking down these matches. So it's going to be exciting. Make sure you get subscribed to Talking Tactics with Coach Goff, and you'll get to hear the dulcet tones of the British accent of Justin Hoyt. It's going to be quite spectacular, I think.
Yep. Still across the pond, so still having to work out the time differences. But yeah, we're looking forward to him making his debut this week on Talking Tactics. So make sure you get subscribed to that. Our man Ken Hetker, not here with us tonight, but he has always been preaching the demand better. I mean, that's his motto from not day one, but of recent. So I'm sporting the Demand Better shirt. Get your Demand Better shirt today over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/shop. And wear it proudly. We should all be demanding better.
Can I wear it and blot out the two T's and demand beer instead?
I think you just gave me a new idea for a shirt. Thank you. Thank you.
Put a shandy next to it.
Oh, but yeah, we got to put. Maybe I'll cross out beer and put shandy. I don't know. John with a great point in the chat on YouTube. How about some shandy themed reviews this week? I'm with you there, John. Absolutely. Hit us up over on Apple Podcasts as well. Man, this hour flew by. I'll tell you what, this might be a new staple, folks. Subs on shandies every week on the podcast. All right, let's start to get things wrapped up here. Jeff Tebbets, as always, appreciate you being on the show, brother. Give us your final thoughts this week.
It's been a while since we've had our game before the last game, and I just want to say that this international window feels like it has been a breath of fresh air. I mean, before the window, the U.S. men's team, they sort of faltered with the Olympic qualifications, but winning 3 games, winning against Mexico, this has turned me into a new man. I really have more confidence. I wrote a big article on CST about what you can really get from these 4 games that they played over the international break. If you had little confidence in the U.S. Men's team in the past, you should have a lot more confidence now. I feel good things about it. Once again, all in. I'm going to go all in and say they are World Cup bound.
Nice.
So read the article, follow. If you're not a fan of club, follow country. Definitely a lot out there to look at, and you're seeing a lot more talent blossom up in the ranks.
I'm liking the gambling and the beer theme tonight. He's all in. I like it. Jeff, as always, appreciate you being on the show, bud.
Thanks. Always bet on black.
A lot of folks don't realize this, but Boston has this thing where I ask him to be on the show, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be on the show." And I try to have everybody in the room at least 30 minutes before, so we can hash out everything that's going on. Boston likes to show up casually late, and this week was like a new record. I think it was 3 minutes before we went on the air, and he was great. Boston, as always, appreciate you, buddy.
I don't need a warm up, Soups. Come out firing, just like on my show. A little prep, all random. But you mentioned your reviews, Subs. What'd you think when you got 5 to 6 March to Match Day reviews all coming in at once there?
When did that happen?
Did you review them on this show? You probably didn't.
Did we get March to Match Day once? Did I miss something?
Oh. I told the March to Match Day viewers, Subs has no idea what goes on over here on this channel, and I was right.
He's hey, you know why? Because I have full faith in you, Boston. I have full faith in you and Brad and what you're doing. Same thing with Coach. I'm not on that show anymore.
Yeah, I hijacked your reviews. I have been tearing up your shirt bribing process over on March to Match Day, and I staged a protest against you, and it worked in mass. And you have had no idea that this has been going on behind your back.
That just tells me everything I need to know. Maybe it's the right time. Oh man,
you might want to check out the last couple March to Match Days. Just
all right.
Yeah, I did a mini revolution.
Guys, please don't break up for the kids. You know, please don't break up.
I love you, Boston.
Love you too.
And good article this week. We'll see you in 2024.
Yeah, I'll be back. 2024. Mark my words.
Final thoughts from Coach.
I have so many things here. So first of all, the last time I was on the show with Boston, he found an M&M with 2 M&Ms in it or something, and he was so excited. And I will never forget that day. Second of all, Boston has been taking pot shots at the big show, Monday night show. He's trying to take down Talking Tactics on March to Match Day. And listen, he's got an unfair advantage because he gets to talk about the match that hasn't happened yet. The one that FC Cincinnati, by definition, has not lost yet. And that simply is not fair. We here and on Talking Tactics have to talk about the mindless drivel that we've seen already. And that is it's just something that we have to deal with. It is the cross that we bear. It is our plight, but we do our best. Now, what I want to say is if you want to be miserable, watch the team lose and be miserable. But if you want to be happy, go and look at some of those moments that I'm talking about, some of those combinations in and around the box where you can see that FC Cincinnati has an idea, they have good players, and they're going to put something together. I'm with Jeff on this one, which I don't say easily. Trust me, I don't say easily. But Jeff, with him going all in, I'm going to stand over his shoulder and ask him to buy me a beer after he wins that pot.
Wow. All right. So you got some positivity.
As long as you're not giving the other team, not telling them what's my hand, that's fine.
Coach, as always, appreciate you, brother.
I had fun today, and I'm hoping you did too, Subs.
I see what you did there. Well done. All right. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna do this more often. The drinking during the podcast.
It's the only way to live, apparently.
I've enjoyed this. I think this is the first time in 254 episodes that I've done this. I had a lot of fun this week. You've got to do these things. We've got to break up the monotony, just to have some fun. And like I said, glad everybody had a good time. Glad to see the packed house there at TQL Stadium. I was in Nashville over the weekend, and on my way home, had to take a detour because of some traffic, thanks to Waze. And I had a chance to drive through the actual city of Cincinnati and drive right by the TQL Stadium. And I was very impressed, and can't wait to get to a match to see it all in person and hopefully experience it with all you fans as well.
Have you told everybody what you thought about Columbus Stadium yet?
Oh, you're right. I have not done that. Yeah, so I'll fill everybody in. I go all over the place for my daughter's softball tournaments. Like, we are all over the place. We've been to Indianapolis. We were in Nashville this weekend. A couple weekends ago, we were in Columbus, and I had a chance to drive by the new, I think it's lower.com stadium. I think that's the name of it.
Yep.
I'll tell you what, we've seen the belt buckle from above. It looks even worse from the highway. Like, it is in a not so great location. And I don't know. It just, you look at TQL and you compare it to that, and it's not even close.
One might say it's the Shandy of stadium, Subs.
You know, not all of us have the palate that you have, Coach.
That was
Drinking-
well played. That was
Drinking
well
your
played.
chocolate beers, and you know, some of us just like a little lemonade in their beer. What can I say?
I'm
Also,
not one to talk. I have a mango guava milkshake IPA tonight, Subs. So
I saw
can't-
that
can't
yellow
really
thing and was
tease.
wondering what that was. I was like, man, he's giving me crap for a shandy. It looked like you were drinking a shandy.
You guys got to go with the real stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, it's time to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with us. Hope everybody had a great hiatus, is enjoying some international soccer. It's been a blast watching the Euros, Copa America, and now Major League Soccer is back. So we're very excited about that. That's going to do it for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For Boston Razzle Dazzle Brazzle, Jeff Tebbets, and Coach Brad Goff, I'm Subs reminding you to watch your tackles. And FCC fans, we will see you all next week.